I don't have much appetite. I might do it. Have fun. I gotta get something to eat though, man.
And one we're really eager to learn about today. Without further ado, he's taken the time out of his schedule to talk to us, which is utterly incredible. Mr. Jason Ritter. Hello, Mr. Ritter. How are you today?
Doing well. How are you doing? I'm very excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you here. We're still getting audience members joining, so just a reminder for everybody who's joining up, the chat channel's closed off to reduce any sheer mania while Jason's in the room. We've got the server going onto a slow mode to help us work around the excitement. Please do just tune in, grab a coffee or a fizzy drink or a soda pop, as I'm sure many of you Americans will say, and let the fun begin. We kind of split this up into a few little sections to try and keep the flow going, because we love a narrative here. A lot of these have been submitted by our members. There's a few already getting a little shout out as thanks. A lot of these questions people have been desperate to ask for literal years. I'm sure, Jason, that you're very well aware of how frantic, some may say neurotic, this fandom can be, so we tried our best to curate. But if you don't know an answer, just say skip it and we'll soldier on.
Okay.
Okay, I think that we're ready. We've got 110 people in the audience. That's quite healthy. So, we'll start off with the usual stuff for the benefit of our community. You may not be entirely aware of your earlier career. A lot of folks are really interested in hearing, how did you get into acting, and what was your first role?
Oh boy. I liked acting in elementary school. There was a place called the Santa Monica Playhouse. There is still a place. It's still there, and it was right next to my elementary school. And there were a bunch of people from my class who would go over there after school to do plays and rehearse and things like that. And it seemed very cool. It was like, you're not going home. You're just going to walk down the street by yourself and just go mysterious theater and sing and run around and learn lines. So that was like sort of my first experience with it. That was my first experience. So I went to the Santa Monica Playhouse. I did plays there every semester, I guess it would be. I think like 2 a year or something like that. And it was so super fun. I started to try to, I guess my first sort of professional job in this movie called Mumford. When I was 18, I got an audition. A friend of mine got me an audition because I didn't have an agent or a manager for this movie Mumford, and I ended up getting the part, and it was very exciting. And that's where I got my lovely manager, Joni Burstein, who's still my manager today, and that's basically it.
Absolutely wonderful. You've had a long line of kind of, well, I suppose we would call geek culture roles. You know, we've got Freddy versus Jason, Drunk History, Gravity Falls, right up to your kind of upcoming role in the Matlock reboot. Would you say that Gravity Falls has the most intense fan base that you dealt with?
Yes, I guess so, but in the best way. I do think that sometimes the fans, the Freddy vs. Jason fans they go hard. They are deep into it, and I love them. Falls has a certain enthusiasm, and I don't know. I match a lot better with the Gravity Falls fans. There also have been times where, as everybody in this room probably knows, there are like super crazy fans of Gravity Falls, and we know the codes and we've done all the research. And then there's like people who enjoy Gravity Falls like they enjoy any show. And so there have been times where I embarrassingly have out-fanned someone. Someone tells me like, "Oh yeah, my son really likes Gravity Falls," and I'm like, "Oh, you like Gravity Falls?" I'm like, the whole world, about this cipher hunt. And they're like, "Oh, I just think it's funny," and I'm like, "Oh, right, sorry." So I'm very excited to be people who are as nerdy about it as I am.
Yes, you're amongst very like-minded people here, I can assure you.
I love it.
How was Gravity Falls first pitched to you?
You know, really funny Disney kids show. I had no idea. I knew there was a mystery and I knew that there was a mysterious element, but I thought maybe like Scooby-Doo or something, like a creepy element every week. And, I didn't quite get it when I first auditioned for it. Also, it was kind of, I had auditioned for a few, I was like maybe into my attempts to be a voiceover person. So I had been sending in tapes and, not hearing back, basically. And then Gravity Falls had a callback, and then another callback, and then eventually we did this short pilot that I'm sure some people in here have seen, with the notes and some popsicle stick jokes, and and so it was a really slow burn for me. I thought it was basically just a fun kids show, and I was excited to be a part. I've always been a huge fan of animation. Growing up, my parents would bring me to animation festivals, and as I got older, some of the more sick and twisted festivals of animation. But I always just loved the magic of the animated world. So I was really excited to be a part of a Disney show and a kids show and a fun, funny, well-written show. I had no idea the rabbit hole that I would eventually down.
When was it you actually first met Alex Hirsch himself? What were your first impressions of him?
I believe how young he was, just because I think it's a strange thing. You're like a child, you're a teenager, and then you're a sort of an adult, but you still kind of always feel like yourself. And then you imagine that everybody who is us will be older than you for all of time, I guess. You're like, oh yeah, you're a person of seniority, so you must be older. So it was I couldn't believe, especially because at the time I met him in person, I had already been recording for a while, so I had heard his voice a bunch of times. And so I was surprised how young he was, and then I immediately loved him. Like I'm so in awe of his genius, and I don't use that word lightly, but I really do think that he is one. But he's just so fun and so lovely, and he's so passionate. He obviously cared about this show so much. And I don't know, I felt like a little kindred with him when I first met him. And I think me too, that I was a similar type of person that he was. So as we continued in the show, he would give me little clues and drop little secrets, because he knew at some point that I was invested as anyone. But I was really excited to be like a fan of the show and also get the script for the next episode. See if I can figure out any clues.
Well, I suppose directly leading on to that, obviously Gravity Falls has a fair few kind of twists in its little story. Did any of them particularly take you by surprise? Did you keep an eye on how things were broadcast and how the show was developing? Or was it kind of was it sort of a here's your script on the day sort of job?
Yeah. It was a total surprise. I mean, I got the scripts, usually a couple days before, but for the most part, I was completely kept in the dark. There was, there were times where Alex would give me a little hint, but I don't know if everybody knows it here, that fake Fiddleford is the author thing that set up brilliantly. I was like, oh, that does make sense. He has the bandage and F, and he lost a finger somehow, but that's it. Also, clearly a genius. That was one of the other things that I noticed about the show was things that were bizarre at first. Like, oh, okay, so this old crazy man built this huge dinosaur robot. And you're like, oh, wow, that's actually He is a genius because he's amazing. So it was so fun, but I think to answer your question, I think the first time I going on and meets the eye was when someone, me or Alex or anybody, someone online pointed out the first Landon appearances. Before Time Traveler's Pig had even come out. So nobody knew who he was. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know why he was there, but I was like, that's interesting. You're putting some mysterious script for eagle-eyed viewers in the background. 3 episodes. What could that be? And then when I finally saw that episode and it went back to all 3, I was like, oh, you're thinking way ahead. It's kind of like what you hope in all of these mystery shows, and I think a lot of mystery shows, maybe they're like, there's a crazy thing that happens. We'll figure it out later if we get another season. But Alex had this whole plan ahead, and when you rewatch the show, the things that are laid in are so subtle. And also in the Time Traveler's Pig, I think I had told the story before, but there's a moment where we all run past the old Mystery Shack before it was a Mystery Shack, and I think it's Grunkle Stan opens the door, but he looks different, and that's the first time you see Great Uncle Ford, and I didn't know that. Even though in one of the recording things of that episode, Alex said, the biggest Gravity Falls is in this frame right here. And there's Great Uncle Ford standing right there, and I'm going, there's something in the wood or something in the background? What is it? That's Grunkle Stan. So he did give me that little tip before, but I didn't guess it. Not smart enough.
Absolutely incredible, though. They're so cool to hear, actually. Obviously a kind of, I suppose, a decent follow-up. How do you, as a voice actor, get used to hearing your own voice? I'm going to be editing this recording, and I think I'm going to go absolutely insane.
I've never particularly liked the sound of my voice. I think there's... It's funny because I always thought my voice was a little too high. To have I don't know what I wanted. I guess I don't really want to sound like Batman in my day-to-day life or some kind of grizzly old. But there's something so cool about that voice, and I think it helps in action movies, that ability to be like, let's go, it's time, or whatever. And the fact that the crack in my voice never quite went away. I don't always get there, but it's up there. It's there. But it was kind of nice that I didn't like about my voice were some of the things that Alex and casted and everybody involved liked enough about my voice. And I even felt defended by them in that voiceover episode, where I do kind of get my dream voice, and everyone's like, "No, your real voice sounds just fine." We can tease you, but we love you.
Our resident aeronautics engineer, Moon, has asked, who was the most fun to work with while recording from the show?
Oh, gosh.
See, we're playing favourites already.
Yeah, exactly. Times early on where we record together, we were, they were trying to figure out, is this even possible? For the most part, she was in New York and I was in Los Angeles, and then she moved to Los Angeles and I had to go to New York for a job, so not in the same place. But there were a couple times where we got to do it together, and that was really fun. And then there was one time for Hand That Rocks the Mabel where we got to, oh my gosh, wait. Yeah, we're all 3 of us got to do it together. Kristen and oh my God, Gideon. Oh my gosh, it's the coolest of them all. Forget a name like Philip Van Orman, who's also one of the loveliest people, and I think maybe one of my favorite performances in the show. I think Gideon is such an amazing character.
Yeah, we all love Gideon. We absolutely love Gideon as a character.
Oh, that was really fun. That was probably the most fun. But in those 3 or 2-person sessions, I didn't get as much one-on-one time and secrets hinting as I did when it was just me and Alex and the rest.
Rob, one of our lovely staff and also a local actor, asks what was the process involved for kind of returning to Dipper for the Disco Girl recording that was originally for the Gravity Falls vinyl?
So Alex called me up and he said, "Would you be interested in recording a version of Disco Girl?" And I obviously I love the show. I love Alex. I would do anything. I also love how passionate this is, and I'm just like, yes, let's give more and more and more. So it was during the pandemic, so I didn't go anywhere pretty early on because I remember I recorded it. I had to set up a bunch of blankets in my closet. Luckily, it was the same kind of setup I used for Captain Fall in the first season. So it was kind of there, but it was very dark. There's no light in this closet. And it got very hot after a while. So I was just in this hot closet singing my heart out. And it was just so fun. And it also, there's like a part of me, when Alex would do his Uncle Stan voice, where I'm like, oh, that's him, that's you, that's me and him. So that was really fun, and we did it a bunch of times, and we improvised a couple of times for the part where Uncle Stan interrupts me. Improvised a couple of different beginnings and different versions of he's the mystery solver one. I think he eventually went with the kind of James Bondish one. But it was so fun, and it is not like Dipper is so close to personally as a human being, but his voice is so close, and because I have very limited talent as a voice actor. He lives just here. Like if I live here, Dipper's just up here. It's just a little bit higher. And so anytime I want to hear a little right here.
I have to say, I think that you probably gave like hundreds of people an aneurysm by doing the Dipper voice live on video. So that's all very exciting. The amount of people who've been so hyped about hearing the voice of Dipper again is quite incredible. It must be said.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say now that I noticed this is not a real raccoon. I just wanted to say that in case people thought that I was a raccoon. I have become a raccoon hunter.
Just so people know you aren't going around beheading raccoons. Always a good thing to make sure of.
Exactly. Anyway, a little nonsense.
Next one is from Dane. Happy belated birthday, Dane. They asked, what was your favourite line to record in the show?
We said here we can harass people that we like.
Favorite line to record in the show? That's a great...
I had to wash my hands. What? Did you touch the table or something?
That was so... This is also very early on. I think before I had the full scope of what we were doing. But I had fun recording the Lammy Lammy song.
Everybody loved the Lammy Lammy song. Yes.
I loved it so much, and there was also a part of me having grown up on Disney movies where I'm like, I'm technically a singing guy now, especially now, Disco Girl as well, full length track. But it was just so much fun, and there was a time, there were like, you weren't sure how it was going to work, if I was going to need to really pretty quickly decided that just having like a real boy's singing voice was better than doing with the projects where kick out the actor and they bring in a beautiful singing voice actor to do it. I think the Lammy Lammy Dance didn't need the full deep vibrato. I think it would have changed the feeling of it. But yeah, that was so fun. And then I also recording Tale of Two Stands just because I was excited in the recording to get this story finally, and this, even though I had read the script a couple days before, I did feel a little bit more like I'm talking to him. I'm talking to the author. He's here.
Incredible. Communist Doggo asks, fantastic name. Are you still friends with the people you met on Gravity Falls, and what was the dynamic kind of like when you were all together?
Oh boy, yeah, I would say that I am. I do feel like we all shared something special, and so Kristen and I talk a lot, and we. I mean, not like a lot, but we will. She texted me the other day and was like, "Hey, I'm thinking my daughter. How do you feel about our children watching Gravity Falls? How old have you let your daughter watch it? How old is she if she has, and all those things." We are excited and we want to share. And then a lot of the people on the show, it's just been so excited to watch shows and see them all just doing so well, and then realizing that Gravity Falls was almost like, I don't even know, it was like the Beatles or something, where you're like, all these people are in the same band at one time. Like, Matt and Dana and Cheyenne and Mike Rianda and Jeff Rowe. I mean, it's so amazing to see. I do feel like everyone really still supports each other and loves each other, and Gravity Falls was it was a scrappy little show. Like, they were all fighting to make it as good as they could make it, and they all cared so much, and they all were so talented, and it's just been incredible to watch. Amphibia, Vowel House, Inside Job. It's just like all these beautiful, strange people just making amazing work.
We've got one from Alia, who's our server's owner. She says, is there anything that you picked up on the show that you now take into your current voice acting work?
Yes. One of the things that I always do, not even only in voice actor work, but it's a trap that I continue to have to try to myself out of, is at times in a part feel like I have to put something in order to convince people that I am a human being or something. And in Gravity Falls, when I first was recording, and in the pilot, and then they used some of that old dialogue in the actual pilot that aired, and you can sort of hear that Dipper's voice is a little bit different, like it's a little nerdier. I felt like I had to make Dipper have like a nasally voice for some reason, and pretty early on, Alex was just like, just the nerd. It's already there. You don't have to. No, but he just was like, I don't think you have to put that on. I think just your voice, And there was a lot of learning that I had to do about, there would be times where I would come in, because it was my first time doing a voice acting job where I had a bunch of episodes, where it wasn't just like one day. There would be times where I'd come in and my voice would be like too low. It's like, people have said, but Alex would say, "Oh, it just Dipper's a little bit up here," and he would help me kind of match, or like some of the other people recording, so you can hear sort of where their energy is, so you can match it. So, but anyway, that's a totally separate thing. The thing that I have taken from everything else is that I can sort of take away instead of put them on. The more I can kind of be self and bring my humanity something, the better. If I'm like, this is the character and blah blah blah, or like, this is the cool tough character, I'm basically, it doesn't feel like me, and I feel like I can tell, and maybe other people can tell. So yeah.
Fantastic. Sprink asks, Sprink, fantastic. In various places, it's mentioned by crew members just how effort-filled and kind of tiring it was to make Gravity Falls. When like all of the recording was done, were you kind of personally exhausted about it, or were you still ready to go?
I was ready to go. I mean, it was exhausting for everybody aside from the voice act, I would say. I mean, because I just got to come in and and talk a couple hours a day, and then the most exciting for me was, we do one episode all the way through, and then I would get to come back sometimes, and they would go, oh, now that we've animated the entire episode, we realize that we need these things or these other things, and it would always be funny because it would be my voice, and then like sometimes Alex's voice, sometimes Matt Braley's voice, sometimes other people's voice, like just in Dipper's mouth to have the timing of it so they could have animated to it. So we'd hear Dipper saying some line, and then all of a sudden, and the other thing, Uncle Stan, is this. So it wasn't exhausting for me at all. But I did see I did see that it's taking a lot out of people, especially Alex. He cared so much, and there was so much extra stuff that he was doing that, like, it wouldn't be like, hey, can I have, this much extra time and this much extra budget for a bunch of, like, secret things that you can't really monetize, but I know the audience will enjoy. There wasn't any of that. So he like took it upon himself to make sure that all the codes worked, that all of the, that everything was done, everything was right, and he just, I mean, it's sort of the price of caring that much. And what the thing that's so beautiful is, I think that even though he basically to the limit and to the max, it really paid off. Like, I think people really see that the love and the effort that Alex put into the show, and even after the show, like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to do a worldwide, real life treasure. It's the coolest. It's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing ever. And there are times where it felt so tailored to my loves and my passions that I was like, is this just some kind of like, is this just for me? Is this whole thing just for me to have the most fun ever? It was so fun because I grew up doing codes and decoding things, and I loved all of that, and it just felt like all of a sudden all of my useless powers, since I didn't become a spy or someone who code breaker, they were useless in my day-to-day life until Gravity Falls, and now all these escape rooms. All of a sudden, my powers.
Your time has come.
My time is, yeah, exactly. That's amazing.
So I suppose one of the questions was, how on earth did Alex convince you to spend some time in a post office with a load of Tumblr users during the kind of a cipher hunt ARG? But I suppose you've already answered that.
Zero. I was excited about that whole thing. I was following the cipher hunt so closely. Also, I had known that was being planned. Because again, and I missed the road trip. There were a couple road trips that they all did to like various mystery shacks and mystery spot and all these things up in the Pacific Northwest, and I missed every single one. Unfortunately, I just couldn't go for whatever reason. And but there was one where they went up and where they planted Bill, Oregon. And anyway, so I knew that there was something going on. I had no idea that it would be worldwide. So, when there was a clue in or Russia, both, I think, I just was like, do I fly? What do I do? Okay, the tickets are very expensive. I'm not going to fly. And they already found it, because that's how international is, that people were finding people and sending them to the clues. And that was the other thing. It wasn't like someone was going to win. It was like we were all on this international team to solve the mystery. So it was like, when I found out that there was a clue in Los Angeles, there was no stopping me. I just was so excited. And I don't know who remembers, or maybe some of you were actually there, but after the post office, we got a absolute nightmare of a puzzle. Maybe 70,000 pieces of it. You guesstimate about 70,000 pieces. About 10% had like a black line on them, and most of them were just yellow. There was a comic book shop. Oh, I should have remembered the name. It's online somewhere. They let us keep the puzzle overnight, and so several times I went to that. I went to that that comic book shop and just sat there with a bunch of us, and we all just tried to figure out how to put this puzzle together. Long after put all the black pieces together, got the code, and sent the next people on. There was like this desire to finish the entire thing. Very exciting. And it was also so exciting because in one of the clues, Alex's twin sister met us there. Met me there. And then it really felt like a Dipper and Mabel moment.
Incredible. Smiley Trashbag, another fantastic name, asks, did you ever have the chance to meet the guest VAs of Gravity Falls, like J.K. Simmons, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Alfred Molina, etc., while they were on the show?
No, not while they were on the show. Afterwards, I did. It's a bizarre thing I kind of felt a little bit, this has happened to me several times in my life, where I felt similarly about the voice actor that I have in my real life, where I saw J.K. Simmons afterwards, and I was like, oh, it's great, Uncle Ford. But also, I'm just such a huge fan of his anyway. And I know that he's super busy, so he may have been like, "Oh yeah, I think I did a cartoon." I just don't know. So I met him, but I was sort of nervous to be like, "I'm Dipper, you're I love you. I think you're so cool." But yes, I did. The most excited I was to meet someone who did a voice on Gravity Falls was when I got to meet Weird Al Yankovic, the one and only, at the rap party, which was also so cool that he came. And I had heard that he was as lovely of a person as you would dream and hope. He just was so humble and just so lovely, and I was a huge fan of his. Am a huge fan of his. But I mean, growing up, I knew all the words to all of his songs. I loved him, and then it was very exciting because the other weekend I got to watch him win an Emmy in front of everybody, which was so cool. And I don't know if he didn't see it. I was like, oh, I love you, and you're just so great. Anyway, but yeah, and then thank you so much, but it's so fun to talk to everybody, and these questions are so great. The other person that was exciting to meet, and also I did get to watch her work, was Greta Lyle, who just is able to do 1 million voices. It's incredible what she can do, and I'm just in awe of her abilities. And I don't know. Actually, I think I did meet Neil deGrasse Tyson at one point, very briefly, but just in a group of people, and I just shook his hand and said, "My name's Jason," and there was no. You were the pig. You were Waddles. When Waddles get smart, and I'm Dipper. Again, I can over fan, which is embarrassing, but also how can you not?
Kiro asks, what line of dialogue from Dipper do you remember having a particularly kind of troublesome time delivering? Or did everything kind of come very naturally and you were in the groove of the show?
That's it. All these questions are so great. Gosh, that's a really great question. You know what? I remember actually having a hard time if some of the more dramatic stuff as I was so used to generally just using my voice and where it's pitched in my life that it was interesting to see. It was difficult to be sort of sincere when I was up this high because my voice drops lower when I am trying to, be honest and vulnerable with someone. So some of the emotional stuff the dramatic stuff, like when Mabel is about to push the button and I'm saying, you do not do it, don't trust him, we don't know who he is. None of those are the lines, but complicated at first, and then I was like, oh no, I found it. I found my version up here that is worried and freaked out. But yeah, that's a great question. I never even thought about that before.
It was indeed. Thank you very much, Kira. Philip asks, if Gravity Falls were to have a crossover episode with any other TV show or movie universe, what do you think would personally be the most intriguing or entertaining? And how do you imagine the characters from Gravity Falls would adapt to that world?
Great question. Oh, man. It's so hard to think because I'm trying to, those that are sort of close in theme. It would be more fun to go like wildly different. I always was a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up, and but I think there's too much fighting. I think Dipper is not so good at fighting. So maybe he won't last too long in that world. So maybe there's more of like some stuff. So gosh, I don't know. I mean, it'd be fun to be in. I think if I were to go into Dipper's mind and what show he would probably most enjoy, I think Inside Job would be pretty.
That is a very popular vote. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah. This is like, you're like, I knew it! All of this paranoia and all of the figuring stuff, and just getting to know all of the secrets that are out there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that question, Philip. Pidge Wynn asks, was there a particular time you or the others kept cracking up while recording? Was there anything that was particularly funny if they had a lot of difficulty voice acting?
Great question, too. I'm trying to think. Laugh a lot during Hand the Rocks and Mabel. I wonder if that's why Thurup and Kristen and I stopped recording together. They're both so funny, and I had never heard anything like what Thurup was doing for Gideon, and so all of his little giggles and all those things really would make me laugh. And then we also did a lot of laughing for some reason. Particularly funny moment, but when we were live action shot of Linda Cardellini and I through the weirdness bubble when we got dressed up as Dipper and Mabel, and we got to do a lot of improvising, and that was all fun. It turns out to be a very short moment, but I think some of the stuff we did is on my 5 fingers, and yeah. Anyway, so we laughed a lot that day, and it just was fun because it was unlike anything we'd ever done for the.
Fantastic, thank you very much, Pidgewin. Noro Nar asks, which episode was the most fun to voice for, and which one did you find the least fun? Oh, that could be controversial at the end. Good grief.
All fun. They were all fun. I would be the most fun because it was sort of like a poignant experience. Was all of it, just because so much was coming together. It was such a bunch of episodes or long episodes or whatever you want to call it. I've been, for people unfamiliar, for people who aren't me, who've been there the whole time, I've been a part of a lot of shows that have ended. And some of those shows have had big mysteries, and it was always very frustrating to just get canceled and never, so it was so much fun and so exciting to watch Armageddon. What I had the hardest time with was the one where Dipper is, they're on the road trip. The one, what's it called?
Roadside Attraction.
That was one of the hardest ones for me, just because I also kind of like out of my comfort zone. It was very familiar for me and Dipper to be very uncomfortable, very awkward, very so. Interesting because it's like he definitely learns his lesson, and it's uncomfortable to be sort of like a bad guy, but like do stuff in an episode that people like hurt Candy Chew. Who really wants to hurt Candy Chew students? Nobody. And anyway, so that was the most difficult, sort of complicated part for me to do, just because I was like, how does one do this? I'm a bad guy. But it ended up being totally sweet, and had more to do with my own insecurities and worries and stuff like that. But I would say that.
Incredible. Roadside Attraction is still quite a controversial episode amongst the fandom, so I'm sure...
it is.
Yeah. It's really interesting, the sort of feelings and opinions you get on Roadside Attraction. It's probably like the most divisive episode in the entire series, so, perhaps you felt the same kind of reflection there, who knows? So,
the thing that I enjoy about it is that it turns it all on its head, and gets his comeuppance, and so does Dipper. That's interesting. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, it's very interesting, quite the rabbit hole, I suppose, as an aside there, what is your personal favourite episode of Gravity Falls ever?
Weird Mageddon. Just because I think I love those so much because they're such huge episodes. Is Dreamscapers. The introduction of Bill is so exciting and scary, and I just loved what all of the artists did in Stan's mind, and I I love the whole storyline. I love that Dipper gets a hole blasted in him, and it's sort of like funny and weird. And then there's a lot of beautiful things in that episode about when the way someone loves you is not the way you would like them to love you, and you don't realize that what they are doing is a form of love. You just feel the toughness of the tough love, And I love that moment where Dipper sort of figures out that Grunkle Stan does care, and a lot of the ways he treats Dipper is because of his childhood and his regrets, and we're all, and as you learn more about Grunkle Stan's life, his whole trip and his brother, you realize he's become the man he is.
Incredible. Thank you very much. Grubby asks, what was the funniest story/day you had while working on the show? Were there many kind of pranks and inside jokes? We all know that Alex can be a little bit of a mischievous soul, as it were.
He is a mischievous soul. Gosh. To the office. All the writers those were such fun time. Again, for me, probably maybe not as much, but it was like, first of all, they all were so cool and so nice, but there also was a little bit of like rocket energy with them. There was like some kind of punk, like, we're doing this thing that we want to do, and we're fighting for the things that we believe in, and there's such a part of me that's like, oh, sorry, you didn't like that? Let me change everything about it. And it was so exciting to see all these young, incredible writers and creators just doing the show that they wanted to do and fighting for it, and then, there was like there's all this beautiful, crazy, weird stuff in Alex's office. It was just fun to go in and look around and see what some fans had sent him sometimes, or see what he had made, or watch him mess around with the Grunkle Stan puppet. And yeah, those were, and the other really fun times were anytime we got to like go to Comic-Con.
It might end just in time, but you probably don't want to wait for me.
I remember when they gave me this hat, and it's like, there's no Gravity Falls. Now it's all messed up, and I've had it forever, but you can see like the color is a little bit off, but I had been like, I hope they make those hats one day. And when the first couple times we went to Comic-Con, before Gravity Falls even aired, I like dressed up as Dick. So embarrassing like that. I even say, because I have it, so why not, But I remember the first time that I saw I love Comic-Con. I've been going for years anyway, so it was so exciting when I went there, and the first time I saw anyone cosplaying, it was a couple as Robbie and Wendy. Oh my god! And I basically was trying to, I like the show too. Not like I'm in the show or I'm Dipper or anything, but like I'm like, look, I'm you are, and this is the, and Wendy. It was like kind of perfect. It was exactly like the woman who was playing Wendy was like, that's sweet. And Robbie just gave me the stink eye. I was just like, ugh, like you're too old. Why did you choose Dipper? And I just was like, I felt so embarrassed, and I was like, I think I just met Robbie and Wendy in real life, and that's how Dipper feels with both of them. Like, well, she kind of like maybe it was a little embarrassing, but certainly Robbie is a bummer. But yeah, so that was really fun. And then when I started seeing more and more and more, and I just started to realize, there were a lot of us. It was very exciting. And now I forgot the original question. What was that?
I think that works perfectly fine. Don't worry.
Oh.
A lot of folks have asked about how actually was voicing Dipper. Obviously, it's a bit difficult to answer because he's not that drastically removed from your usual voice. But he does kind of scream a lot. How do you cope with so much yelling and hollering during a recording session?
We realized very early on, we just went in order of the script, and we did all the screams. That the end of the episode, I would be hoarse because I don't know how to, without giving it some grit, and it would just tear up my vocal cords every time, and eventually it would sort of pop. So sometimes what we would do is I would just, and we'd do the whole episode, do all of the like, and the, all those, and then sometimes for even future episodes, Alex would be like, "Can you give me a short scream, a medium scream, and a long scream?" But I do remember there was one scream that was so long, and Great Uncle Ford and I are flying on the spaceship out of the thing, and there's like a long scream where it's going, and then it like dips and like keeps going, and that was a tough one to maintain. I had to take a real deep breath, and we only got a couple of those before my my voice was gone. So yeah, as a not as professional voice actor, there were some things where I was just like, I don't need my voice for a couple days. I can just scream it out. It's the kind of thing that if I was Broadway, I would not be able to do. But because of the scheduling of this, I could kind of blow out my voice every time if I needed to, and I didn't always, but definitely sometimes.
Incredible, thank you. King Masks asks, were there any scenes in the show that you were super excited to act out, only for them to be kind of cut out of the final script? If so, could you tell us a little bit more about them?
Oh, that's a great question. So wild because even though it seems like we just finished, it was 10,
quite a while ago.
Yeah, 13, something a long time ago. Well, more than 10 because, let me think. I actually can't really remember much because by the time that it got, it'd be different, sometimes like in a smaller movie, especially now with digital cameras, like an independent movie, you can try a lot of different things and then in the editing room they can see what works. But I feel like on a cartoon especially, it has to be so tight and there's not too many extra things. So there would maybe be like one or two lines here or there that didn't make it into the thing, but yeah, I do remember I felt like recording Taking Over Midnight. I felt like and then ended up in the final thing, but they may just not have been good enough. But I did give it my all, as maybe some of you have seen in those videos that are on of singing, just mess around and try different things, and but you're not gonna that weirdness bubble. It's just not gonna work.
How was it kind of season 1 had finished broadcasting? We've kind of done deep dives into the history of the fandom and sort of seen how things developed on things like YouTube and the like. And it's obvious that kind of by the end of season 1, things had just sort of exploded in a very real way. How was it working on such an intense basis with it's effectively a Disney Kids TV show? It must have been quite a surprise, I suppose, to see everything sort of go as sky high as it did.
Amazing. It was so incredible. And, again, tried to launch shows and have the first season end and in it or or is talking about it or whatever. It's painful and it feels a little awkward. And so it was so exciting to watch the audience grow with the show, and also like getting it. And there would be times where Alex would tell of switching a code up or doing something, or talking, or they had to record things and then put them into a computer, and things that I still don't know how to do. And I just was like, oh, no one's gonna get this. And everybody did every single code. I would look online after an episode, and people would have found things that I didn't know about. And that was the most exciting thing, is it felt like sometimes I would go into the next recording session armed with questions from Reddit or from, Twitter or wherever. Like, oh, I didn't even notice that or think about it. But now that someone's pointed it out to me, I can go to the source, see if I can get any information. So it felt like we were all part of this, like, little group together, and we're all trying to solve Alex's codes, and and it was so fun. It still is so fun. And by the way, year Alex has been sending me little pages from the Book of Bill. Wait until you see this, guys. I just cannot wait for it to come out. I mean, I've probably seen 1%, but some of the art is so incredible, and it's so funny and so twisted, and also probably couldn't have come out until the Gravity Falls fan base was 10 years older than they were when they first started watching.
I think you've just set everybody on fire there. Good grief.
Oh my gosh.
So just to kind of phase into that, because you sort of answered this already, but I do want to give the person credit. It was Melody Rabbit 109 who asked, have you seen Inside the Book of Bill before it releases, and is it as terrifying as Alex says it is? Which I suppose we've just kind of covered. I'm sure you're probably kept to some kind of NDA or sort of lockdown on info. But,
I think it's like a probably. Certainly, he just was sending them to me with, he didn't sign. I didn't obviously sign anything, but it's just the general friend.
A gentleman's agreement.
A gentleman's agreement, but so funny, and also incredibly beautiful. And I don't even know, like, the art is so varied. There's so many different kinds of. I mean, I don't want to ruin it, but yeah, it's and I'm sure it's more disturbing than even I know. But I mean, I have like 12 pages safely locked away in a. I don't know. I'm nervous now about how good hackers are. I just think everybody's so much better at computers than I am. So, but yeah. Anyway, it's very exciting, and it's so cool that I had no idea he was doing it until maybe about 8 months. He sent me the first couple pages, and I was like, "What is this? New Gravity Falls?" Because as you might have guessed, I have every book. I have every. I'm a collector as well as a. So I'm excited to add to my collection.
Incredible. I suppose this is going to be quite a funny one, I think. What are your headcanons about Gravity Falls?
Oh boy!
I imagine it being disco.
Dark, all at once.
Disco.
Fun people, no disco. It's more like probably industrial goth German.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
I'm not.
We saw
Sure.
Rammstein go to a group outside festival. Everyone was gothed out. It was awesome. We wanted to go so bad. It was in like the dark.
Here's one that I think.
Germany south of Hamburg, and it's like
That's
no, man, I'm getting awful close to like rural Germany.
It's worth it.
Rural America
are like taking over the world. I just think
You don't know this already?
You don't
some-
think rural America is scary.
people with all the three of their strengths, and they've developed some beautiful, wonderful thing that helps all of humanity. And I think that they're all billionaires.
Could I just get you to repeat that? Apparently your audio glitched a bit for the people in the audience.
Oh, sorry. I would say that my sort of headcanon is that Mabel and Brenda and Candy stuck together through, they're like just those kinds of friends that stay friends forever. And
Everyone loves Great Grandma.
that they've kind of project or something together that helps all of humanity and is lovely and has made them all very successful and happy, and they're all so very generous and charitable and lovely. And my other headcanon is that this is just a personal thing, that maybe Grunkle's dad and Great Uncle Ford let Dipper come with them on some of their adventures, but they had no pressure. But I think that would be so cool. I really hope they do.
Yeah, so I can handle my own.
I'm sure that's again got very people excited. There's probably a lot of people feeling very validated right now. In consequence of talking about how utterly crazy the chat and the fandom is going, have you seen much in the way of fan content? Like, you must have been given so much fan art and fan fiction and all of this stuff, like at conventions and the like.
Yes, I've seen too much. No, I mean, I think one of the things that probably every Gravity Falls is that you're searching and at holes you find some stuff that you wish you never saw, and also you mostly find lots of
more than I would trust
stuff.
rural America, though.
And
I get
I mean, I've seen so many lovely things. I actually saw maybe some of you guys have seen it, a full new completely fan-made episode that was like funny and felt like in line with the characters, and also like a lot of I mean, when I went back and I looked, they really like cast people who like all of us, and everybody. It was really fun and interesting as a fan of the show to watch that was made, and some of it was fully animated with color, and some of it was black and white, but it was really fun. So that was really amazing to see.
Part of his animated short that he's working on.
So passionate about it that like that's
kind of mind screwing
time, but even drawing a beautiful picture takes time, and the fact that people love the show enough to take some time to make something as a tribute or as a fan, or seeing characters get it's lovely that the show hit them so hard, and they love it so much that there's all these lovely tributes. I think it's just interesting and beautiful and fascinating. And
a couple hundred submissions.
Did it say?
And also a little bit scary, I imagine. Sometimes a little bit disturbing.
Scary. Yeah, sometimes a little bit disturbing. Yeah, there's some.
It didn't dox.
I can't talk. People are insisting that I bring it up. I personally write a fan fiction series which is now over 500,000 words.
But I didn't want them to say my real name.
Gosh, I gotta read it. That's so cool.
Yes, so people will be happy now I brought that up, I'm sure. If I don't plug myself, and people will be upset.
What is it?
It's called A Return to the Falls, and it's it's what's known as. In fact, actually, this keys into the next question. So I'll probably bring this up first. I think we've had an embarrassing number of people ask this, and I do mean an embarrassing number. It's a lot. We've had a lot of people who have said, "Do you think that Dipper and Pacifica Northwest get married?"
trendy.
I don't.
Yeah,
What was your question?
No.
It was just like if you ever
I don't.
cracked up, we'll say.
I mean, anything's
Any funny
possible.
stories on set?
But
Did you ever watch
I really had a hard
Stephen Colbert?
Pacifica for a long time. I didn't do it very much, just like Dipper didn't. And then in the
Anyway,
in
he has Andy
North-
Serkis
wait.
coming. You know who
Northwest,
Northwest Mention Mystery. That's the one.
Lord of the Rings.
History. Yes, I was like, okay, all right.
She played God.
Okay.
One of the things I loved
So,
about the show is
Stephen
you get a
Colbert would
sense,
give him a
you get more of a sense of people, and you're like,
answer like
okay, I
Gollum?
understand a little bit more
Hilarious.
what's going on with them, and it really humanized Pacifica in a lovely way, and all of a sudden I saw it too.
Rare, ravaged rant.
I still think she has a lot of therapy and stuff to do to unravel some of that stuff, and but I see like a beating heart in there.
So,
But I don't know.
that's cool.
I think it's a big wide world out there, and
I'm not using that.
no,
there's also a part of me that thinks
you're doing your
Yeah.
12 and 15 are worlds apart.
It's streaming to YouTube.
no,
Oh, wait, what?
5 and 28?
your
Not so different. Maybe Wendy. Yeah, it just I'm just throwing. It's just throwing it out there that it's not impossible.
okay.
That,
So
one
you're
day-
doing Zim and Gur, right?
Yes.
Okay. And where are you in that?
I have.
That was
I have it all mapped out.
that was very diplomatic. Thank you. We could have had an entire fandom war develop off the back of that one. But
Right now, you're occupied with.
fantastic. Also keys in because Return to the Falls is what is known as a Dipsifica fan fiction, which is
Okay, well, there you go.
So there we go. I hope that satisfies
see it.
everybody. Thank you for sending that in like 6-7 times, all by different people. Might I add? That was
Awesome.
that was very excessive. We're now kind of coming up towards the end of our little interview selection, so we're getting through this very nice and quickly. We've got an utterly nonsensical question from our staff member Alex, who insisted that we ask it. I mean, he has been talking about it non-stop, so I had to do this as a courtesy. Do you eat mac and cheese with a spoon or a fork?
Question. I think I eat it with a fork, and I know why. Every fork, I'm like, what am I doing? I think because I guess I think it's pasta, so I'm like, oh, this is fork food, but would be so much easier to eat with a spoon. So I guess I would say a fork until February 2nd, 2024, at which point I switched over to eating mac and cheese with a spoon.
Fantastic. Is that all right for you, Alex? You're going to stop asking that now? Good grief. Right, I'm going to pop in a couple of extra kind of non-related Gravity Falls questions just because they came
Great.
up quite a bit, if that's okay. Are you a video gamer? Do you have any favourite video games? That came up quite a lot.
I am a video gamer. Maybe, yeah. Yeah. It's borderline. Too much. Well, is there too much? Yes, there is too much video games. My favorites. Favorite probably ever is Shadow of the Colossus, which was a PS2 game, and then they remastered it for PS3 and probably 4. It's just such a beautiful game. And I loved Fumito Ueda's first game, Ico, and I loved The Last Guardian, which he did after Shadow of the... I love them both, and they're all three of them are so beautiful, and it's kind of all in the same world. But I love the way that he doesn't give you all the information, so you can kind of put your own feelings on it. They're very pared down, and in a lot of video games these days, they're too big for me. I kind of get overwhelmed. So the games that I really have liked in the last couple of years, Shadow of the Colossus is like one of an all-time kind of favorite thing. But in the last couple of years, I've really liked. I liked like Limbo and Out and Inside, which are by the same company. I really liked Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2, and the third one is coming out, which I also can't wait. Games and puzzle games. It's largely a solo experience for me. Not a close friends play, so but I never really did the sports games or the shooting games and stuff like that, first person shooter. So I like when I play, it's late at night and everybody's asleep, so I like to spook myself out. And Little Nightmares and Inside and Limbo are all just spooky enough to not actually send me like running for the hills, but enough to give you a nice set of creeps.
I'm going to have to ask, I think, for Grabby as well, because he would be very upset if I don't take the opportunity to ask. Do you like Five Nights at Freddy's?
Bet I would. It's one of the ones that I have been a little too scared of. But I've just started to get into virtual reality, and I know there's a couple there, which I don't know why I would be. I mean, I know that would be, I imagine, when you actually feel like you're there. I'm fascinated by that world, and I've even watched some like YouTube videos of people playing it. I'll be brave enough to play it. It's so scary to me, though. I think because I already was scared even before the Gravity Falls episode, in which animatronic beings came to life. I think I had enough bad experiences with my Teddy Ruxpin as a child, which was for those young people was sort of like a little animatronic faced that you would put a cassette in, and you would cassette tape, which was before CDs. I'm old. And you would put it in, you press play, and the bear would kind of move its head and blink and kind of talk along with the tape. But if you left it out in the sun too long, as I did, one of its eyes was frozen open, so anytime it blinked, it was just kind of one blink. And at a certain point, the cassettes had sort of warped, because that's what they used to do. So the voice would slow down at creepy moments. And it just gave me the creeps. It was enough to be like, I don't like this. So, yeah. So I'm a little bit scared of Five Nights at Freddy, but I do feel like I would love it.
Incredible. I'm sure that you've just made Grubby's life there. I've been asked to bring something up. I don't particularly know why, but Bill Cipher the Dorito, I don't think it's the real Bill Cipher, so I think we're okay, has said, I wore my Mabel sweater to a furry convention today, and they just wanted you to know that. So there we go.
Letting me know.
So there we are. I'm just going to double check that I've got all of the questions, and then here we go. Very, very last one. I did actually mean to put this in earlier, but it got completely lost, I think. How long did it usually take to record voice lines for the entirety of an episode?
It would be like 2 hours, I would say. 2 or 3 hours, depending on how heavy, how much Dipper was in the episode. Even so part of an episode, a big break on voiceover. I just had to come in at the beginning and the end and let someone else do the heavy lifting. But yes, it always depended. But it was usually a couple hours. And sometimes we would do a split thing where we would record a new episode, and then if they had the old episode that they needed extra things on, I could just do both at the same time, and then then it would be more like 3 hours.
Wonderful, thank you. Sorry about that, Ghost. It was in the script, but I am a rank amateur, so just completely skipped over it. Sorry about that.
No.
If nothing else, Ghost, it means that you've now been the centre of attention. So there you are. And then finally, we've got one from the Meta, which I really want to ask, purely because we kind of went onto the video game tangent. What's your top 5 TV shows that you weren't in?
Boy. Gosh. Those. See, I've liked different TV shows for different reasons over the course of my time. Recently, I've really enjoyed Succession. I've really enjoyed I've become kind of obsessed with, which is The Traitors, which is a reality show that Melanie and I can't stop watching, where it's basically like Mafia or Werewolf, if anyone's played it. But it's so fun. Betrayals and lying and all that kind of stuff. What are some of my other favorite ones? I enjoyed The X-Files. I enjoyed. There's just so much great TV. I've watched every single episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I've watched every single episode of Columbo, the old detective show.
Incredible.
And he's just so amazing. And I do like detective shows. I also like Poirot, which is
Fantastic, with David Suchet.
yeah, one and only. He's Hercule Poirot. It's like he jumped out of the book for me.
Incredible.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, trying to think. I know that I'm gonna think of a million. Now I'm gone completely blank.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going kind of through the dregs now of what people are asking in the chat. Just while we've got you for a few more minutes. My girlfriend Nessie, who is a proud pigeon owner, would like to know how you feel about pigeons.
I love pigeons. I've done a lot of pigeon watching. I may not be as passionate as Nessie or Bert from Sesame Street, but I do love them. I remember being the first time I saw like what I think pigeon mating season. I really just saw one pigeon. And I don't know anything about the sex or gender of pigeons, but I did see one pigeon just puffed up, just going, and like really trying to. It looked like someone trying to be very impressive, and then this other pigeon that he was trying to impress, just being like, "This is embarrassing. Can this guy please get away from me?" And I watched it for like 15 minutes, and it was very beautiful to me. I think I may have even shed a tear at the end of it.
The plight of a seductive pigeon.
Yeah, it's awkward. But sometimes they get a bad rap. But I like those when the sun hits them just right, and there's like the purple and green, beautiful reflective feathers that they have sometimes. It's absolutely beautiful.
Incredible. I'm sure that I'm now in the good books of my girlfriend. Thank you for that. We've had a lot of people asking about music. In particular, are you a fan of Gorillaz?
Yeah, the animated band.
That's the ones, yes.
I am, and in fact, I wouldn't say. Growing up in being like a teenager in the 90s, there was like, it was very scary to say you were a fan of a band that you knew even just peripherally. People would be like, "Oh yeah, you're a fan of the band? What's the lead singer? What's the whole thing?" And then you really have to be grilled on it. Otherwise you were a poser, what they say. And I did just find out about, I didn't realize that all of the characters in Gorillaz had like these amazing backstories. And
yeah, there's a lot of lore. There is a lot of lore.
Just like literally in this last year, just learned about that and started to read about it, and I was like, oh, this is really amazing. I just thought it was cool animation and fun, great songs. But yes, I do like Gorillaz.
Wonderful. Okay, we are now coming right to the end, so I'm going to kind of finish with this one. which is asking about a Gravity Falls video game. If there was one, would you be very excited to take a part? And would you be, what would you want a Gravity Falls game to be?
Oh boy. I mean, the first answer is I am ready to do Gravity Falls anything. Always. I love it so much. It became at such a weird in my life, and say I would even go as far to say. But I'm literally and as a fan of the show and of the world, I'm ready to. I think Alex knows that if he calls me and asks, say yes. Gravity Falls video games. I know, on the Disney website, there were some fun ones. And there also was a 3DS Gravity Falls game, very fun. And also there was a moment, my favorite moment in that game is at a certain point you get to hear what's really going on in Shmebulok's head. And you get this really big, beautiful, long backstory.
Yeah,
it takes a very long time to tell before you... I can't remember if you can translate him or he gets something. I can't remember, but anyway, it was really fun. But a new Gravity Falls game. Boy.
Probably for the best.
Probably, because you are a distraction.
In reality, on an app called Rec Room, but I think it's not only Rec. I think it's not only on VR. I think you can access Rec Room just from a computer or phone, maybe. But anyway, there was a Gravity Falls Mystery Shack that someone built that's like insane and beautiful and incredible. And it did make me think how fun it would be to be able to explore that world and, in sense like that. Not necessarily VR, but, most of the games that I played, Gravity Falls games, were 2D platformers or otherwise, and it would be fun to actually have like kind of an open world Gravity Falls game where we have, where you get to see some old faves and then have some new stories. I would love to. I don't really have more of a thing. Maybe some exploring. Now that we know about all these other dimensions, maybe there's a weirdness bubble that survived Weirdmageddon, and it can transport you. Or there's several, and they transport you all to different wild worlds, and you get to go and co-op game. One Zipper, one person Mabel. They each have different skills, but.
I just know that there's all these fan fiction authors now just furiously scribbling down all of these notes like, yes, this all makes sense. Yes. Incredible. Don't worry, I won't miss you out, Tessapika. We had somebody who asked, do you have a favorite Pokemon?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we just missed the Pokemon craze. I was into college when it started, and a lot of friends were into it. It wasn't just that I was old, but what we in the video game community call completionist. So nervous by the catchphrase "gotta catch 'em all." I just was like, oh no, I can't even start. There's some, and that's one of the reasons that I like some of these smaller games, because I can get all the trophies and then I'm finished with it. As opposed to some of the bigger games, which I also love. I do love bigger games, but like, I don't know. I can't remember the last time I finished an Assassin's Creed game in the way that I would want to, which is 100%, I can finish the storyline and things like that, but yeah. So yeah, I missed Pokemon. I was too scared. But that being said, I think I like that Charizard. No, is that one?
Yeah, Charizard. I'm sure that'll work. Thank you.
I
Pikachu.
know Pikachu, and I barely know the Charizard.
That's about the limit of my knowledge as well, Jason. So
Will say that I like Ash's style. The hat and the vest.
I'm not sure if Dipper stole from him or if he stole from Dipper using kind of a timetable or something. There's something funny going on there.
I think we both kind of stole from Marty McFly from Back to the Future movie.
Very true. Sense. Very good point. And then finally, we've got one that a lot of people have asked for, and this will be our last one, so you don't have to stay around these crazy cartoon fans for too much longer. Could we get a message just from Dipper, just saying hello to all the Gravity Falls fans and leaving his thoughts for us all? Would that be possible?
I'm not about exactly what to say. I will say, go back and watch Back to the Future. It almost feels like Gravity Falls. There's a lot of little things that Alex does that makes it, in hindsight, look. There's small, for example, and fashion and all sorts of fun stuff. All right. Wanted me to start again? You said you had such a beautiful introduction. Fans of Gravity Falls. This is Dipper.
Yeah, just a little message from Dipper saying hello to all the Gravity Falls fans, and then just do whatever comes to mind, Jason. I'm sure that people will be satisfied even if he just says a swear word and leaves. Yes.
Just getting ready, getting my whole thing going. Hello, fans of Falls. This is Dipper, and I say that Gravity Falls is real. Die. And I hope you all stay curious and be nice to each other. Let's solve them, because the truth is out there.
I'm really sorry, Jason. Could I just ask you to repeat that, because apparently you cut out for a few people.
Shoot, yes. It's so long. Okay. Of Gravity Falls, this is Dipper, and I've got a very important message for all of you. Some of you forgot, or maybe some of you don't believe, and it will never die.
Marvelous. Did we get that? Did everybody get that? God's sake. So sorry, Jason. Can we try again?
Yes, absolutely. From Gravity Falls, and this is going pretty good here. Regular, normal, weird stuff, but I just wanted to remind you, in case some of you forgot, Gravity Falls is real, and it will never die.
Perfect. I think that's perfect. Thank you so much, Jason. We'll be able to kind of put that together and trim it and all that. Don't you worry. So that is all the time we're going to keep you for, because we don't want to take you away from your busy schedule for too long. If I may just do my outro, if that's all right, and then we'll call it a day.
And I just want to say thank you so much for everybody for showing up and being here with me, and to you for setting this all up. And I'm just very grateful.
Thank you so much, Jason. That's been a whopping, I believe, 35 questions in all.
Amazing.
That's you tonight. I think above all else, I just want to conclude with this. We've been running this server since 2016. It actually opened when the show ended, and the subreddit is even older. And the most amazing thing about Gravity Falls is really the significance that it holds for people. There are so many questions that are asked by our members. We had over 150 questions in total that were asked. We were just so many people, right? We had like a little message section for people to leave their little notes. And what really came over is that there's so many people who wrote about what Dipper meant to them, what this show meant to them, and how important it was to them growing up, or even how important it is to them now, as it's kind of a comfort show. So, above all else, Jason, I think we'd all just like to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking part in this today. And chaps, just before we close off, I just want to say that Jason is a key board member, as with most of his family, for the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health, which is, of course, is set up in the name of his father. If I may, I'd like to ask if you have the means and the time to do so, please leave a donation of $5 or more to the charity, who do incredible work in the name of a Hollywood legend, father, husband, and friend, and I've no doubt that will mean the world. I will pop the link in the announcements. Thank you so much, Jason. We love you for this. We really appreciate it. And, if another project with Dipper arises, maybe we'll be hearing you soon back in the Falls.
I'm there.
In a return to the Falls, as it were. Sorry.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank you so much, and goodbye. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That was a live interview with Jason Ritter. I hope that you all greatly enjoyed that. I think that I can say personally that I'm absolutely blown away. I think that most of the server will probably agree. I'm now going to start kind of opening up the stage for anybody who wants to talk, now that we're over. So let the after party begin, I suppose. Give me but a moment, and I shall be able to set that up. Oh, Grubby is first in.
Oh, shit.
Hello.